Today, many cryptos, including Bitcoin, are in the green, but what is the bigger story? Which direction will prices go with so much turmoil? Jerome Powell at the U.S. Federal Reserve being investigated for lying to Congress. That's new. Iran nearing a state of civil war and asking for U.S. involvement. And the U.S. just removed Venezuela's dictator. And is this all good or bad for Bitcoin and crypto? Well, let's take a look at the price action of these markets and the crypto market to see what price action may be suggesting. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, have you ever worried about money and wished you could get into a place where you didn't need to? Well, what if you didn't need to again? How would that feel? Isn't that really why we all came into crypto? What if you learned to use some of your money to work for you just right so you never had to worry about money again? Now, I grew up poor in life with secondhand clothes, bologna sandwiches every day for lunch. It isn't bad to grow up that way, but I realize the true value of money is it allows us options in life, and it also can decrease that gnawing worry we carry of how do we meet all these financial obligations and perhaps even afford the nicer things we want and the travel that we want. Well, after a few months of being in crypto, when I started 8 years ago, I recognized that crypto investment done right had the most amazing, massive potential to allow us to get to a place where we don't have to worry about money again. Now, after 8 years of being in crypto, I know that crypto can and will change your finances and your life, but there is a huge catch. Crypto investment works amazingly well towards your goals when you take the right actions, but while being in crypto, I learned that most do it wrong. Many that got in crypto before I did, and I thought they were experienced when I was here, have been in crypto longer and they haven't made meaningful money. I learned that 95% of people in crypto don't make meaningful money or flat out lose money, and only 5% of crypto investors make the life-changing gains that we all came here for. Now, haven't we all learned in life that if you find what the really successful people are doing and you copy how they do things and how they think about things, you start having their kinds of results? That's ever so true in so many things, especially crypto. So I focused on figuring out what those 5% did and put it into practice myself. By 2021, using those principles, I was able to fire my day job, move to the city I wanted, put myself in position to never have to work again if I didn't want to. And here on this channel is where I share what I learned. I share my research on the companies I like, and more specifically, why I like them. Today is our price analysis day. This is a day where we combine what I've learned with our special guest, Paul, and his background. Paul has 30 years price analysis experience analyzing charts and price and, learning to take bets based on the price action. It's a very different approach than I take. And all of this is to, show you that there are different strategies out there and to give you insights on what Paul is looking at, what he's thinking about. So thank you all for joining us. Do note, if you're looking to be part of that 5% that makes life-changing gains, join the Patreon in the link below. That will give you access to the Rainmaker private Discord. And the Rainmaker private Discord allows you to surround yourself with people who have learned and are learning to do things the right way, which is exactly how you get good at this. So make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show. We've got Paul in the house. Thank you for joining us, Paul.
Yeah, it's great to be here, as always. Second week of January and volume starting to pick up. Some big stories going on that need to be unpacked, I think, from a fundamental point of view. But as always, eyes on the charts and the trends, and we'll see where the big levels are and what's going on. Already got some calls to look at the silver and the gold, possibly gold market, which is where all the action's been. And yeah, we'll get into it all.
Nice. Chris, join us. Howdy, Jay and Paul. Hope you're all doing well. Any chance we can look at silver and XRP again? And Double Cool says bologna is the ultimate comfort food. Wow. Yeah. Like, I learned to hate bologna after a time. Because that's what I had for lunch. Well, sometimes breakfast, and then for lunch was sliced white bread, probably the stuff that has very little nutritional value, and bologna on it. And if I was really lucky, I had 2 slices of bologna on it. If I snuck 2 slices, because yeah, and that was my lunch. Sometimes I would have tuna fish, so canned tuna with a little bit of mayonnaise, and just to break it up. All right, Paul. Now it's been a tumultuous, gosh, this last couple of weeks has been crazy with Venezuela, Iran, the Federal Reserve. What are you thinking about? What are you looking at, and what's on your mind?
Well, the Venezuela thing is just about oil, isn't it? So I think most people have kind of worked that out. The main reaction in the stock markets when it all happened was pretty much muted. So that told you that it wasn't going to interrupt the trends. And from in towards the end of last year into this year, the bias has basically still been bullish. And I've been looking for risk on with acceleration in the base and the precious metals, which are all still happening. Crypto's taken a bit of a back seat. So the overview, exactly the same as last week, is that the bias there is to the upside still. The sentiment's dropped away, although it's into neutral from being very kind of from fear to basically into neutral, whilst the market was doing what? Going sideways, and then lo and behold, we get this break upwards. So I think there was a comment on the chart, on the chat, sorry, last week, saying it seems like everyone's abandoned crypto, and I think that was a very good assessment of how it actually feels. And then, amazingly, as we keep saying, a few days later, it all suddenly feels like it's come back to life again. So, as we've been saying for kind of the years that we've been on this channel, you got to be there when it's quiet, and you got to be there when it's busy, and otherwise you can't just be a fair weather analyst, because otherwise you'll be in at the wrong time. And that's why it's just consistency, and just don't turn your back on it, because that'll be the time it all turns back up. But what I'm looking at again is possibly a final acceleration in these precious metals, only because they've been going up for so many months now, and at some point the bears are going to throw in the towel, and there's quite a few people suddenly going long and talking about upside. So that might give us the correction that we're looking for. Not because it's too high, just because sentiment is shifting. And I don't believe that the trend is over either. Today's actually a very important day because we got CPI, which I'm guessing will be weak. And I'm guessing it will be weak because the thing with Trump now is he has done some really good things, but he's also done some bad things. So politics is a gray area, isn't it? And you can't like everything that somebody does. I like some of the things he did, but I also know that he is a loose cannon, and he's known to be a loose cannon, and quite short term in his thinking and unpredictable. And the Jay Powell thing is clearly I say clearly, who knows, right? Nobody really knows. But it sounds very, very political. And he wants interest rates lower. He's going to get interest rates lower. He's got the power to do it, and that's what will happen. So rates are going to go lower. The numbers are going to look good. The situation in Venezuela and Iran is asking for this, according to what sources. Who knows, really? And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know. It looks very kind of convenient. But the main point here is that the markets, as far as risk goes, is still moving higher. So I don't think it will be a straight line. We're going to see some corrections, but the kind of broader bears are being, annihilated across the board. For example, in the UK, we had the budget towards the end of last year. Everyone was really bearish. Everyone was talking about how bad the economy is, how bad everything is. And our stock market's just hit a new all-time high, breaking a milestone of 10,000. And the charts indicated that's what would happen. I'm not even saying I indicated it, even though I did talk about it and quickly go through the European markets, but they're all bullish and they're all still looking bullish. You may remember the Japanese stock market that we talked about a while back when somebody was asking about the yields and whether it should still go up. And, you know, just look at the chart of it now. It's actually, I'll just pop it up. Here we go. It was around here that he was asking about it. And it's already, you know, gone 4,000 points and it's still rising. So the market is still in risk on. It will correct. We're probably going to have a volatile year. But whilst it's going higher, I'm staying with the bull side.
Isn't it funny how sentiment has been so low in crypto? But yeah, Bitcoin is definitely breaking higher. A few coins that we're looking at definitely broke. It had a big jump this last week. And it's like everyone says it's over, and then it never is. Why? Because, well, blockchain combined with cryptographic encryption unlocks some things the internet couldn't do before. It's going to bring on a new revolution of what the internet can do. And so it's part of the future of the internet. And, you know, the right projects with the right founders over time are going to do exceptionally well. There's another thing that's happening that I really didn't realize how correlated the altcoin rally that I've been waiting for is to money supply growth. And money supply growth is about to go crazy. So maybe that brings exactly what I've been waiting for patiently.
Yeah.
Existence.
Yeah. Actually, Chris has said that CPI has come out. For some reason, I don't know what it is, in the back of my mind, I had, you know, when the Fed announces their rate change, it always is on a Wednesday, it's always when we're doing the show. And I was thinking, while we're on the show at 6:30, they're probably going to announce the CPI numbers, but of course they're not going to do that. It's at 1:30. So Chris has very kindly updated me, which is fantastic. And yeah, so thank you for that. So it came in at 2.6, which I don't even know what the number was supposed to be, but the market hasn't really done anything short term, so it's not sold off, and all the charts are still looking bullish. So
now, Japanese stock market breaking up to a new high. That's crazy. What are some of the other ones you're following looking like?
Yeah, we can go through. I mean, these are 50,000 is nearly there, which is, you know, level that we looked at from this breakout here, from down here. You know, these are not new calls. I mean, you can go back and have a listen to any other show that you want to in history, and you'll hear me talking about how the stock market's going up. This is the transportation index about to break a new high, prior resistance, big level here, may come off it, but it's going up. This is the NASDAQ, which it looks like it's in a bullish triangle, so that will probably break higher. S&P 500 broke into a new high. It's come off. So, you know, there are people shorting it as it goes up, and it may well squeeze a bit lower. I don't know. But the probability is still bullish. So I'm not going to say anything's a certainty. It's just that that's the general direction. This is the Toronto stock market. I think you can see a trend there. This is the UK stock market. You can see the trend there as well. It's the French stock market. It's about to break into a new high. This is the DAX index. It's already broken into a new high. The Euro 50, that's in a new high. It's the German, yeah, we've looked at that. The Italian stock market's been in an upward trend. This is the Chinese stock market. Looks like this is a consolidation before it breaks up. We've got a Hong Kong market, which looks ready to break a new high. We've already looked at Japan. You know, we've got gold screaming higher. That again, this is what we looked at last week, and I think the question was, is it time to sell? And my view was not, that it's still going up. We've got silver hitting $90. That's still, you know, it's parabolic. It's getting very, very, very pricey, but that doesn't mean it won't go. it won't go higher. So I think in the short term, perhaps this is reaching a little bit, and I'm looking for trend ending signs, but we haven't seen the trend ending sign yet. It's just that it's going up so fast that I certainly wouldn't be shorting it. It's just a question of where to take profits and where to rebuy when it comes down. Palladium, platinum, all still breaking out, still going up. We've got aluminium going into prior high, got copper, that big trade into a new all-time high. That's getting ready to go higher. We've got lead broken out. We've got nickel broken out. We've got zinc ready to break out. So commodities are all looking bullish. Oil's the only one that's not really going anywhere, and that's a really good risk on trade. So Bitcoin has finally woken up, and being in a slump and a collapse that has taken out a lot of people, it's now going back up again. Will it go into a new all-time high? I don't know, but it's certainly going in the right direction given the broader macro scenario. We looked at Bitcoin Cash, which I was saying looked bullish. It broke into a new high and it's had a correction back off, but that trend is still one of the unusually bullish ones, a bit like Monero, which I think you've asked about. Again, I think about a month or so ago, or maybe a bit more, we looked at the privacy coins, and Monero was always one that stuck out as being looking really bullish. ETH, that's playing, catch up as well. That's having a rebound. So, if the market can build on this, which it should be able to, especially if the dollar gets hit, and the dollar should get hit some more. It's in a consolidation, but this trend is still down, and this has been a long-term view that the trend is down. Then I can see at least the right environment, the right macro environment for a rally in the majors, the major coins, and what we're seeing now, possibly a swing into the altcoins, which has been unfortunately severely lacking, which is kind of unusual given how much money is swirling around, how much risk on there's going in the main market. But as we've seen with AI and things like that, market ignores it for a long time, and then all of a sudden that's all they want. So, I'm still optimistic that we're going to see some risk on rally in those markets towards the final move. When we see that, obviously we'll be on the channel discussing it. But for the moment, I think it's just risk on with, from what I'm seeing in the main charts, everything pointing in that direction.
It does look like things are moving to full risk on. And with money supply growth, that does make sense because it floods the zone with a lot of money. It looks also like producers or manufacturing expected to do well, which is why I imagine the metals, all of them are going up so much. Is that usually what that indicates?
Is what? Sorry, could you? It just dropped out of my end. Could you just say that again?
That people are anticipating manufacturing to go through the roof because all these metals, including precious metals, are going up so much. Copper, aluminum.
It's what it is a, in my view, what it is a combination of the war between China and US. Basically, it's a war of raw materials. In order to grow, you need raw materials. What's happened is the US have put tariffs on China, and China's got access to raw materials. So they've gone, well, all right, you put tariffs on us, then you can't have our raw materials. And it's like it becomes a tit for tat. So part of the negotiation is also an indication that the economy has been doing well and needs to grow, but it's almost a protection against your neighbor getting all the assets. And so therefore there's suddenly what was a sector that everybody ignored because they didn't think it was important is now suddenly one that they've woken up to and they're all rushing towards. So Venezuela is all about assets. It's about oil assets and other assets that the country's got. If it was, some South African country that didn't have any valuable raw materials, I'm not sure that they'd be that worried. So there's a vested interest there in what's going on, and I think it's a combination of the two, that the economy has been doing well and the economies are growing, and there is this desire to push growth in. Of course, you've got to push growth against your neighbor. It's part of the war of competitiveness, isn't it? I mean, the US is under threat from some extremely well advanced Chinese products, from cars to mobile phones to other things. So you've just got to get your hands on the raw materials before other countries do, which is another reason why I think commodity currencies like the Australian dollar should do pretty well, because you look at the charts, they're reversing out, but also look at any country that's got a large amount of raw materials, and their currency should in effect do well. Canada's actually quite interesting because they've got oil deposits, yet the Canadian stock market has been taking off even though oil has not been doing very well. So I think that's partly because their interest rates are so low. They're creating a huge bubble there, but for the moment, the market's still going up.
Interesting. Where are their interest rates as set by their central bank versus the Federal Reserve?
Pardon?
Where are their interest rates as set by their central bank versus the Federal Reserve of the U.S.?
Actually, I don't know what their kind of interbank rate is, but I can show you that their 10-year yields are like 3%, and much lower than the US's 10-year, which is like over 4. So relatively speaking, there's a premium in holding US bonds over Canadian bonds, which I think if you look at which country you'd expect to have the premium, it wouldn't be Canada, because it's how you value the country in terms of how safe they are. I suppose it's supply and demand, but yeah, and well, I mean, we could look up what their interest rate is, but I'm pretty sure it's much lower.
Okay.
I would guess I think it's about 2.5%. I guess perhaps even 2.25.
Yeah, which is considerably lower than where Jerome Powell is, and probably in line with where Trump wants Jerome Powell to be.
Exactly. He is a man who's like, well, some is good and more is better. So let's get rates down. Let's get real estate up. Let's get the banks making money. Let's everybody going, go, 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 which is, on the face of it, that might seem really great, but it comes at a price. It's like anything. It's like living fast, dying young. You got to be careful. There's always a price to pay in the markets. And if you create too much liquidity too quickly, and you create problems. That's what 2008 was all about. It creates problems that come from areas that you don't see. So if the banks are doing really well, then they start to lend money against poor credit. They don't care because people are making commissions, which is effectively what was going on in 2007. It was sending out credit card applications to dead people and dogs, which is what really happened if you go back and have a look, just because it was profitable, or people were just trying to make their sales targets. So because of that, it will cause problems further down the pipe. But for the moment, everything's going in the right direction.
Yeah. Let's take a look at, well, we looked at Bitcoin. Let's take a look at ETH, and then let's look at Dash has been making a move, which is a privacy coin.
Sure.
What's going on?
And I'm happy to pick up on any of the questions that have come through as well.
I did add some of these to the queue. We've got XRP, we've got DEVVE, we've got DVR.
Yeah.
Tommy Vesper said, hey, Rain, was watching you last week when somebody mentioned NTX. Never heard of it, dug into it, decided it's worth it. Picked up a good bag. It's got a pleasant surprise today. Good to hear, Tommy. We got DVR. I've never heard of that one, but we'll take a look at that one.
Yeah.
And, where was this? Double Quill said, pepperoni pizza was my trauma. Lots of kids, very small slices, never any other flavors, and I hate it now. It's funny how we relate to like things like that, like bologna sandwiches. I never eat them ever because of the trauma from it. And sounds like You had that similar thing because the pepperoni pizza created some resentment. The little things that happen with us. If we have time, I'll tell a story that involves Randy Chavez and white bread. It was a funny story. All right, let's jump into looking at ETH.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it in passing. It's, I like this breakout here in ETH, and I thought it was ready to go, touch the prior high, which is usually a great sign. If it can consolidate near the high, it tells you that the market's ready to break out. All the signs were pointing that way, including the macro, and I was wrong. The market came down and we got a big correction. But I think with the most recent analysis, this stake in the ground, if you like, where the buying came in, is still on higher lows from the bigger chart. So I still think this is potentially all a consolidation, and we're going to see moves to the upside and potentially some point this year retest those highs. But the first step is that it's got to get through this prior resistance point, 34.75, complete a short-term double bottom. And then this resistance point, 35.73, which is highlighted here. So it's in a consolidation, but I still like it, and I think it will play catch up with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin again is moving first, and this is coming back. We just have a quick look at the spread. This spread chart has been playing out quite nicely with an inverse head and shoulders. The time is right now for this to go up. I'm looking at the time and the price of the left shoulder versus the right shoulder. So this should start to move up now within the next week or so. Otherwise, it's just, that's it. It kind of invalidates. But my view here is that ETH could start to outperform, or at least play catch up a bit. It's a bit in the same way that silver did towards gold for a period. And that's still in the background. But for the moment, it's in a consolidation. I'd like to see it build on these gains. I'd be kind of waiting short term just to see it break out, and because I don't mind playing with a breakout and paying a bit more once it's confirmed that that's the direction it wants to go, or at the very least for me, I maybe a small position, nothing major, just coffee money until, so it gets me in the position, and then as it breaks a level, I can add a bit more to it with a bit of profit behind it. But that's a trading strategy, and everyone's different in how they approach it. But technically, I still think with the macro, it's still pointing to the upside as a bias.
Yeah. Let's take a look over at what's going on with Dash and some other things. Dash and XMR both having a run.
Yeah.
Dash, funny story about Dash. When I was brand new in crypto, I was watching this YouTuber and trying to absorb. And when you're brand new in crypto, it's like trying to drink from a fire hydrant. You're just overwhelmed with information. And he was talking about how he had the opportunity to buy Dash at $2, and he could have bought 10,000 of them in order to be able to run a node. And, Dash had gone to like $100. And so he's like, shoot, it seemed like I would have forever to buy this token. I think it topped out at like $800. And he didn't take it because it just seemed like it would never move. And his friend was telling him all about it, and it had a node. And if you operated the node, you would get more Dash rewarded to you every month. And one of his big regrets was not doing it. Now, Dash no longer at the $100 or $800 mark. In fact, it's come down considerably, although I don't know that Dash is ultimately a technology I think will survive. Let's take a look at what's going on with the price action.
Well, it's certainly woken up, isn't it? And again, we've said this many times, you can't turn your back on anything in this market. It will just break out and things move very quickly. I mean, within 1, 2, 3 days, the whole chart has changed its outlook, isn't it? So if we cover up that price action and look here, I mean, what would you have said? It's been in a downward trend, it's range bound, and if it breaks this resistance at $47, then it's telling you something. It's all happened very quickly. I'd like to know why. It seems like I mean, you might say, well, why do you need to know if you're just looking at charts, but is this something that is a short-term announcement that is spiking the price and people have got overly excited? Or is this a trend that we're going to see in other coins? And hopefully it's the latter. I think maybe it's just a pickup in the sector in general. People are looking for more risk on trades, and long may that continue. Hopefully more money will flow into other things that have been sitting in these sideways markets. But all I can say is there's been a big downward trend for it to fight against. And I've also said many times, I don't like it when things move too fast, because that means they correct quickly. I'd rather a smooth upward trend. And this hasn't completed what I would say would be its first impulsive move, and then a correction just to show that it's now moving into a new trend rate. So I'd like the market to go up, consolidate, people to really hold on to their positions, rather than it be one where the market just goes up, they see a profit, they get a chance to exit from stale longs, and then it comes crashing back down again. So what that shakes out to is I want to see where the first correction comes in and how the market plays, and then watch it go back up again. Now, if I had to take a trade here in an extremely volatile market, it's hard to do that, because if I buy at 83, where do I put my stop? I mean, logically, I've got to put it at 45, which is a huge retracement in terms of risk. So that's another problem with volatility. It makes it very, very hard to take a reasonable trading position. So all one can do in that situation is don't play with leverage money and take smaller risk. Now, I think the way it's moving, and volatility aside, the big level it's going to try for is 100, and hopefully it will get there. And that should be a good stopping point, a good consolidation point. And if it hangs around there, then we're going to get a go at the highs, which is it's a really good sign. So given the choice, I think I'd be long. So I would rate it a buy, but I'd feel very much I'm chasing it, and I'd like to see a correction before, or at the very least, a smaller position, because of the size of the volatility we're having to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a shakeup to the upside. And maybe this is the early signs that altcoin rally is ready to run. It's really too hard to tell right now, but definitely some things waking up. Let me share with everyone a little bit of history on Dash. So that YouTuber I was watching, look, this was the time period he could have been buying Dash, and it was trading at $1.80, $1.70. Look what it did in the 2017 bull run. It went to about $1,500. This is what I love about crypto, this kind of volatility. Here's the problem with crypto. This is why 95% of people don't make money, is because if they do buy it here, when forever later it's not really doing much, they usually get impatient and sell. Or they'll sell it like $11 and they're like, well, I made some money, and they'll roll it into something else that's moving faster, and they never really get to catch this big upside. So that's why I take meaningful positions on things that I like fundamentally, and I wait till really things are going crazy with it. Now, would I be buying Dash now? No, I just don't know if it's going to be relevant long-term. 2021, most privacy-related coins did not do well with Gary Gensler at the helm. Really, I mean, they went after the developers of Tornado Cash, trying to put them in jail. In fact, I think they did put them in jail. So privacy coins did not do well that run, even though it came up some. What will it do here? I don't know. Probably better than it did in 2021, but we'll see. I mean, banks aren't super happy about privacy coins, and banks aren't super happy about DeFi. They don't want the competition. Looks like the latest version of the bill, banks might be getting their way far more than us crypto people would want them to. This is the bill in the US that's really going to become a major influence in the crypto market, because the US has so much monetary power. So we'll see how that comes down. And it looks like you know, one of the big things banks really don't want is they don't want stablecoins to be able to pay you a yield. And I hope that fails because banks don't want the competition. But I would love to see stablecoins being able to pay you a yield, and different platforms that aren't banks be able to pay you a yield on your stablecoins. We'll see how that comes out. Dash for me, you know, even as a large cap, is still not a buy for me. I would literally, if I were holding some, even though it's got further upside, I'd be selling it and just running into, there's other projects I just like so much more. I mean, the chart overall is going bullish, getting some attention. This isn't one of the ones I hold or would hold. All right, let's take a look at XMR Stellar.
XMR?
Oh, XMR, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Monero is what I meant.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so Monero is, as I say, that's one that we looked at a while back, and it was clear that it was outperforming. And I like anything that's outperforming, especially when the chart is near a prior high. I described what I was looking for at the prior high in ETH. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. When it does work, it works very, very well. But people look for different things. You're hearing different strategies. So, you know, I think that's an important point to make, that the lens that I look at things through are, where does a trader take positions where the market proves that something's good against something not being good. I don't like to buy things when they are consolidating and low, because I don't know if this is going to go lower. But I look for signs that the market is being picked up and accumulated, and then signs that the market is going to accelerate. And so this is definitely moving up. Now, from a position of zero, do I jump in on this at this point? I would feel like I'm missing it, but I certainly wouldn't short it either. So I wouldn't stand in the way of this rally. It's going up for a reason. And there are people who have been very bullish on privacy coins, in the same way that people have been very bullish on Bitcoin, for the reason that the obvious reasons of its use case, which is pretty clear to understand. So quite how you stop this, I don't know. And if that's the case, then it wouldn't surprise me if this goes up much, much more. So for me, I can't stand in the way of it. The trend is still up. I've got to go with the trend. That's the rules of technical analysis. So it's a buy, but from a zero position, buying it here is actually very hard. I would like to see a consolidation. I'd like to see a pullback. You know, there are certain technical patterns that I look for that indicate the market is just pausing. And those are areas I like to jump in, rather than just, you know, having missed, inverted commas, this move, and then just deciding today, this is the point I want to break out. But I think there's also people going, well, this is too high, shorting it, and they could well get squeezed out at much higher levels. So I'd be very careful of doing something like that. I know not to stand in front of it, but there is the one time when it works for somebody, and, you know, good luck to them. But for me, I wouldn't be doing that. So it's each to his own.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll run even higher from here, but like then it will come back down some at some point, retrace. But isn't this amazing that once it broke above this, and this is why Paul looked for these kind of breakouts and see it come in, when it breaks the upside like this, it often will run high and fast. And so many traders that trade that way, they look for a breakout to the upside, and they get in, and they're able to take this nice juicy ride up, which may still have farther to go. But they'd be able to pull some off the table right now and still leave plenty running. I like to hold for the long term. I like those really big runs, like what we were looking at with Dash, when Dash was new and it had its first major growth curve. But yeah, Monero is one of the ultimate privacy coins out there, longest lasting. It does get used for privacy transactions. So I think it's got staying power. I think it's going to be around for the long term. And that's why I like Monero over Dash if I were buying these. Now it's at a higher market cap. It's 13 times the market cap of where Dash is at. But I don't know if Dash continues. Will Dash be around 20 years from now? I don't know the probabilities on it, but I don't rate them as very high. Monero, though, I rate their probabilities to be around 20 years from now much higher. Am I buying Monero? No. Too high a market cap. I'm in riskier stuff. And it going up like this and breaking to the upside, a lot of the buys were down here. I would consider that I missed this, and I don't chase boats that I've missed. That boat is, well, gone for now. And there are other things that are still way down on the curve, like this point that I'm looking at. Instead of now it's like 6x up from the bottom. Let's take a look at Internet Computer Protocol, ICP.
So again, this is another one that's woken up from a base. I'm pretty sure we looked at this fairly recently, but I can't remember exactly when. So it's at a very important resistance point, $4.2. And that's key because this held the market for a long time, didn't it? It held it here, and then it got this little break, moved back over just to get the short sellers squeezed out, and then boom, we got this spike low, which is a good indication of a low. And then we got this rally, which was confusing in the sense that this should have been an impulse move with something to build on, because it was the biggest rally we saw for this whole region, which then got slowly deflated all the way back to the low again. So it's a tricky one to trade this. But again, we're seeing a pickup in what looks like an impulsive move. And I think for me, it's worth a small position because this is an inverse head and shoulders. We've got support level here at 3.5. So I've got a stop point, which would be around 3.4 to 3.3. And if I wanted to really give it a bit of room below 3, which isn't bad, and it could just be at the start of something. The only caution I'd have is it's still got lower moving averages. They're still trending down, which indicates that the trend broadly is still down. We've got these points 1, 2, 3 that are still projecting downwards as well. So there's a lot of work to do before this is out of the woods. So going carefully is trading very carefully is certainly how I'd approach it. But this price action is looking impulsive. It looks like this is the start of something. And as I've said before, I prefer to see these more often and there'd be nothing going on, for the moments when things suddenly start to pick up and you have to pay attention. And this is one of those moments. It's on a big level here. It's run right into that level. Think of it as a brick wall. It's got the momentum to break it down. We could be heading higher here. So I can draw an upward trend line as well. I know it's all very tentative, but these things have got to start from somewhere. So for me, I would say that this is a buy with a stop below this this trend line. So I can either put it below here or below the trend line. Either will do. So I've got my risk and reward. Now that's just me. I'm not saying anyone else should do it. You should do whatever you think is right, fundamentals, what have you, or we could find something else. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do this, by the way, because there could be other things that I want to look at. So, but just from the way the chart's looking right now, things change, of course. I would say for me, it's a buy.
Funny story about ICP. So I've been in the crypto space for quite a while, and ICP, when it launched, its token price was way up here. So $433 and coming down. And I remember all the major YouTube channels on crypto talking about ICP and how much they were buying. And I was thinking, it's just come out. It's got a lot of token vesting. I'm like, what is the deal? Why are they covering it? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, ICP, it's going to be the new thing. I was like, there was so much hype about it. But the price was so high. I'm like, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. So it's come all the way down to here. $3 was an amazing buy. It's still a good buy at 420 in my opinion. I like it. Now the market cap is higher, and this is a major project. Now, will they ultimately be successful in like the decentralized computing space? Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't be holding this for the long term if I were buying it. I'd be holding it just for the altcoin pump that I expect will happen for my own analysis. And so I would be buying it, and then I would be expecting to sell it if this were one I was going to buy. Now, I don't think it's going to go to its previous all-time highs. The circulating supply back then was so low, and now all the tokens are in circulation. So it might not get back up to those levels, but it's solidly in the blue chip category. And on blue chips, if you get a nice 10x or 20x, you're doing pretty good. If I were buying blue chips, this would be one that I was buying at this price. So I would rate it a buy. I'm just not buying it because I'm in the much riskier projects. And we'll go over some of those. Some of those are in the suggestions down below, like OMI, DEVVE, NTX, Tommy. We can cover that. We did cover it last week, so we'll go through it real quick. And for those of you in our private Discord, we are going to try to go through these picks really quick so we can get to you. We're going to have a private chat with our private Discord community. So to join the private Discord, you have to join the Patreon, which is the gateway to getting access to the private Discord. And in keeping the Patreon is what keeps your access for the private Discord. But all the chat is really in the Discord, and many private interviews and talks we have with founders and other people there. So we will be rolling over to that. So let's go through this. I'm going to rate this a buy. Let's jump over to Immutable X.
So Immutable X, this is right on completing a reversal pattern here, which is really interesting because it's kind of on the ground floor. Doesn't guarantee it's going to go up. I will say that again, it does not guarantee that it's going to go up, but the pattern looks interesting to me and is ready to break out. So I would be buying this here with a stop below 0.25, 0.24. If we look at ICP again, I'll show you the actual the equivalent of the way the chart looks. We've got left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and this is pushed through. Now that doesn't guarantee that this is going to do the same. I'm just saying I look for patterns to repeat, and if the pattern repeats, great. So it doesn't really matter what market it is. That's why I look at so many different markets. But of course, we're looking here at crypto. We've got this older trend line here that's breaking, which is even better because it's breaking a very fast downward trend line. At the same time, it's making a small base. Now that's a small base, not a massive base. So step one is it's got to come out of a small base. Sometimes these fail, it comes down and makes a secondary base, and then everyone gets bored and doesn't want to trade it, and then suddenly it goes up a lot. So it's doing the right things to reverse the trend. That doesn't guarantee a reversal of trend, but I do like the technical pattern, and I think it's given a good exit point, which is parachute level, which is always what I look for when assessing, the way the chart looks when we're going against the tide. And when the trend is down, I want to go with the downward trend. When the market's consolidating and giving signs that there's what we call accumulation going on, we have to look at those signs. So it'll be flexible towards what the market's doing, not what I think or what I want to happen. So this is an encouraging sign. It's we're seeing other markets do something similar, which kind of adds a bit of weight to the potential upside. And it's nice to look at a bullish pattern, given that everything for a while has been just kind of clear downward trends and avoid and wait. So, it's nice to see that things are starting to change. So, so for me, it's a buy with a stop.
All right. Immutable X. I love it down in this price. Now, it was amazingly down at 21 cents here, but 29 cents is still an incredible price for this project. It's backed by Gods Unchained, which Gods Unchained, one of the principal investors in Gods Unchained was Coinbase back in the day. And they made a pivot because they were first just on the ETH blockchain, but the transactions for these cards for their game became so prohibitively expensive on ETH that they had to make their own chain. Axie Infinity did the same thing with their Ronin network. So Immutable X became that token, then and the chain, and they've been attracting other projects. And I think they have enough backing. I think they have enough everybody knowing about them that they're going to do quite well as blockchain gaming goes crazy. So it's not quite a blue chip at $593 million market cap, but I like this one for a less risky play. Now, because it's less risky, it might not have quite the same upside, but 30 cents now. Its previous highs were about $10. It might go back to that price. Maybe it even exceeds it in the bull market. It recently went from these lows of down to 39 cents. It went all the way up to 323. And that was during still the bear market, but the blockchain gaming run of the bear market. So I think it can do quite well. And at 30 cents, it's a steal of a deal. And I rate it as a buy. All right, let's take a look at some of these suggestions. XRP, why don't we start off with that?
Yeah, so again, there's not a lot to really update other than it's in this range, pretty much in the center of it. It's tried the downside, that didn't work. Tried the upside, that didn't work either. We're still in the consolidation. I think it will resolve eventually to an upside break, but for the moment, it's in a holding pattern, same as I think when we looked at it last time. I mean, it's good that it's done this recent rally. That kind of puts it back into the center of the range, away from a danger area, which is this support of 179, 180. We really don't want to see it close below that, especially on a weekly basis. But it's, again, not done enough to take it out of this range. It's getting pretty close to a recent downward trend line. Actually, if we just adjust that to the correct points, it's got a bit of work to get through that. Let's talk if it gets through 240, 250, then it will start to look a bit more exciting about a possible break, unless everything else is just like really running, and it's running with it too. But for the moment, I think it's just a wait and see.
And normally I don't like such high market cap projects. This is at $131 billion, so it's definitely in the high market cap range. But I expect that XRP is going to be the financial rails for the new financial system, or the principal player in the new financial rails system. And that, gosh, even something with this crazy high market cap as this, it could still go 20x from here, 50x from here, 100x from here, is my estimation, as the world gets a little bit of FOMO as they realize what XRP is and does. And then everyone's talking about XRP. I do expect in the future that XRP could have a higher market cap again, because it did once in, like, I think early 2018. It had a higher market cap than Bitcoin. So literally flipped Bitcoin's market cap once in the past. And I expect it'll do in the future. And there are some, XRP has a very strong community that watches like everything, all the world news. Japan is building their financial rails, or has built their financial rails on XRP, and the US and part of Europe, and still so many in the world don't really understand it or even really know about it. So XRP, I like it at this price. I liked it a lot more at the bear market prices of 61 cents, and at some points during the bear market, it was 37 and 40 cents. But at 210, it's like those days of 40 cents are gone. So you have to evaluate whether you like what it's at in the recent term, and it's down considerably from this 340 it was at. It's not a bad price. And this is one of the only ones I'd consider holding long term. unless it did like 100x from here, I would then take profits in hopes that I could buy the same amount or much, much more back or cheaper, because what booms too much usually overcorrects to the downside. So XRP, I like for the future. I could see XRP being around 50 years from now. One of the most solid projects, in my opinion, in the crypto space. All right, let's see what else we got. DBR, we'll take a quick look at.
Yeah, DBR. I'd say this about any new project. There's not enough history, and you've got to be very careful with anything technically that hasn't got a lot of history. The point of technical analysis, you're studying human behavior, and the thinner the market, the less predictable it is, because you want it to be influenced. You want the market as kind of one mind, as it were, or at the very least, no individual can really affect the market too much. There will always be big positions that are taken for whatever reason. But if there's just a few players, not a lot of liquidity, someone decides to dump some of their holdings, that's not telling me what the mind of the market is. That's telling me the mind of an individual, and that's very unpredictable. So with all those caveats aside, the trend has been down as well, which is not great. So I'd say that this is approach with caution times 2, even more so given the space that it's in. So that raises the risk up a notch again. It's almost like a bit of a lottery ticket, this. If you put a small amount in it and it works, then great. But certainly I wouldn't be rushing towards something that unless it's proved itself. If it's going to be a good long-term project, then it will create a long-term base, and we'll see more of a trend. But it's still too early days, and it's looking a bit random. So we could say that the chart, at least from December the 24th, is trending up.
Hey, Paul, let me share with you, that is not the one he's looking at.
Okay.
I had to put in there. So when you do give us these ones that are really hard to find, we can't find them on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. I had to do a lot of searching for it. And I had to put in debt relief box under the Gecko terminal here, and was able to find DR. So it's DRB instead of DBR.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, I see. Okay, it's this one. All right, thanks. Yeah, that's completely different, isn't it? Well, what have we got here? You've got this massive range that it's near the top of, and it's just broken through big resistance here. Clearly, I would have liked to have seen it around this area here, because this is really nice. That first move and then the pullback, which is what I was talking about with Monero. You get that, and some of the other coins we mentioned tonight, or for you this afternoon. As the market moves up, corrects, then we get consolidation. You get to see where it wants to go next from this type of pullback. I'm chasing it here because, what was I doing? I hadn't seen it right from this breakout, and I'm only waking up to it now. So I'm having to pay a higher price for not seeing it before, but that doesn't mean it won't go higher. And if I was trading this from a risk against reward point of view, I'd say an ultimate failure is it comes back down to here. So around there would be my stop. I wouldn't want it to come below this breakout point, because ultimately, if I was watching it here, that would be my buy point. So I don't want to see it come back to here at all. So if I'm buying it here and it looks like we're getting a bit of a pullback, we should see some form of support coming in around this zone. That's because that was all the prior resistance coming into here. It should hold a support. If it doesn't, that's telling me something needs to parachute out. So I'd want to buy it on the caveat that it holds above this level here. Given that it's volatile, it might retrace a little more, that's fine. But if it comes too much into this space, then I'm looking to exit. And you've got to be quick on the exit as well. And it might exit here and then go back up. And that's the markets. That's the problem with these things. They can be so volatile, and the timing has got to be so right. You've either got to buy it and shut your eyes and just forget about it and not use leverage that will squeeze you out or be forced out. Or, it can work both ways, where you sit on your hands and you end up with a really nice project in 6 months' time because you've been sitting on your hands. But the other thing is, this could also go to zero, and there's no way at this stage of really knowing. You'd have to just follow it and not be drawn into, not be drawn into the narrative or the story. And again, it's one where we're going to have to just keep looking at it each week to see where we are, see whether this will remain valid. The whole idea behind it sounds a little gimmicky to me. It sounds like it's being bought because it's a new thing and it's a new idea. Nothing ultimately completely wrong with that, just that, it still has to have a use case or make sense rather than just be well known. But in this sort of environment, it wouldn't surprise me if we see quite a lot more of that.
Yeah. Agreed. So what went wrong, it is on CoinGecko, but it was typed in there as DBR, which is what caused the problems, and it's DRB. It is a little bit gimmicky, and that doesn't mean that these gimmicks, they introduced a really interesting thing. Where was the original post on this? Because there was some context in there that I appreciated. Where is it now? DBR. Okay. It's an AI agent that was created from Banker and Grok, apparently. So the first crypto created by an AI, they say. So that is a little bit gimmicky, but Banker did some interesting things that made it so you could easily trade your crypto against your wallet just by some simple commands, which was fascinating what they did this. So this is an iteration on that. So it's kind of like a Me Too plus. So it's like, hey, I can do that. Plus I integrated with Grok. And it's like, that is a narrative. And if Banker coin pumps, then this will probably pump with it. I haven't looked at Banker's pumped, and we don't have time for that. I don't take this type of trade, but that's not to say that it can't do well for you. It's just one that I have a hard time gauging what the odds are going to be. Now, if you bought down when it was low and nobody was talking about it, you've done quite well, and it might be time to harvest a little bit of the gains at least. Now, it could come back down to this midline and then blast off from here. I have no idea what this is going to do, but it is significantly up, and I don't chase green candles. It's not at the lows. I like the ones that fundamentally I've looked at them, and I like buying all in this zone here, obviously at the very bottom, but it's hard to tell where the very bottom is exactly. And we'll look at one in a little bit that's at or near the previous bottoms. And that's when I like to buy, because then when they go up like this is where you make some of your money. And then if they come back and retrace and then blast up further, that's where you make a lot of money. But buying here is just a risky proposition, and I don't do it. Right here would actually be a sell point for me. I'll be taking just a little bit off the table because so many other things are cheap, and I'd be rolling them into something that is nice and cheap and down in this zone. All right, moving quickly through some money. We won't be able to get to this, but in the private chat, I know you're in our private Discord, we can pull those up. We won't be able to get to NTX. Let's take a quick look at, I think OMI and DEVVE are two that we need to look at before we jump over.
Okay, so DEVVE from Penguin Colada. Yeah, interesting. You also put a comment about how, say, charts only work if everybody reads them. Do fundamentals only work if everybody looks at fundamentals? It's one of those things, people look at charts and have different views. So I've heard the argument, I heard it 30 years ago. It's never really I don't really agree with it, but everybody's entitled to think what they want. The market is there because people want to buy and sell. Charts just reflect where the prices are. So it's a bit like house prices. Do you buy your house because of a chart, or do you buy your house because you want to buy a house and the chart reflects it? So, but anyway, with regard to DEVVE, the trend is still down, and the I can't justify buying it. I think the last time we looked at it was the same situation where it needs to really put the brakes on this rally, and it's got a very important support point down here. Perhaps matching that and then rallying off it would be one possibility, but I have to wait to see what the market does. At the moment, all rallies are quite weak, and it's still in this downward trend. In fact, it's accelerated slightly from this sort of rate going down to an even faster rate. So I'm not really sure what's happening there. So from a technical point of view, I don't think we've seen the final low. So I'd look for more evidence, and I'm sure we're going to look at it again. So I'll be waiting, but clearly for other people, this is a great buying opportunity. And I hope it is, but I can't justify that. With regard to OMI, it's been range bound. And remember, I would have said the same thing here about OMI that I'm saying about DEVVE, that I'm saying about OMI when it was down here. I wouldn't be buying it until it's formed some form of base, and then you can get some big rallies. It's still in this range bound area. I like the fact that it's holding a higher shelf level. So we're coming off the lows, and it's making a range here, which is what I would want it to do. So it's in a neutral position. Could maybe justify a small buy against this support because it's held once and looks like it's going to hold again. But it needs to do a lot more work to get through this level here, which is where I see everything changing. But, we're going to watch it along the way. And if it starts to rally up here again, this volatile area here could be a basing pattern. It could be something that's indicating a bigger base. So we'll see how it reacts to this low. It's definitely been quiet, which is something that I think is a good thing. And it also held in when everything was going down. So there could be potential saturation on the downside. But I like the fact that it's off its lows. It just hasn't justified a smooth upward trend rate for me to get behind, saying this looks like the ultimate support level where I can draw a trend line. If I draw a line from here to here, it's broken. If I try to draw a line from here to here, it's not justified because this isn't enough support. So I can't draw an upward trend line yet to give what would be a projected trend rate into the future. So I'm going to have to wait, but I can understand why there might be some buys against this support. So we'll have to shakes out to a wait at this point.
Yeah, I knew that's what you would say. Because there isn't clear evidence it's turning around yet. And for Paul's metrics, that's really key principle in the way he invests, because there's no clear evidence it's turning around. Now, I love this kind of price action. And the challenge with loading up at this price, if you load up at 20 cents, oh my gosh, it's at 16 cents, which in the short term feels terrible. Though remember, we were just looking at that chart of DRB, and it's like it probably felt terrible to buy here at this price only to have it go here. But look when things turned around where it later went. So this is the type of trades that I take. And I'm often buying in this zone, which can be frustrating because maybe you even buy here and it just goes so much lower. Your buy price, so many people don't have the patience to let it play out, and they wash out when it goes this low and they figure I better sell before it goes to zero. And that is disastrous. That will absolutely financially wreck you. So when I see stuff like this is an amazing buy zone. I remember when it was going down like this and I was like, oh my gosh, 13 cents. That's so crazy. And it doesn't even show that it hit 13 cents here. Oh, here it does. But it did. It hit solidly 13 cents. And, I know some people that bought it 13 cents. And right now they're thinking, man, I'm barely up on my position. But look, it went up to $1.70 before coming back down, and a double tested this. But look how often crypto projects tend to do that. What happened here? Down at these lows, boom, and then a higher low. Didn't quite come down to those same lows, but really close, and then blast off. Now, is that how this DEVVE chart is going to play out? Probably, but there's no guarantees. So you are taking a risk when you put your chips on the table. And maybe DEVVE fails from here, though I don't think so. Like they've got, I talked to Tom Anderson a couple of weeks ago, and I believe in DEVVE more than ever before. They have more good things going on with them than ever before. So sometimes the market price doesn't reflect that. And that's what I love about crypto, is sometimes you can get really amazing discounts. But so few people do pull the trigger at these prices because it feels so scary. And that's where I like to buy. So this is a buy for me. It's amazing. Now, DEVVE, I have huge positions in because I believe in this for the long term. All right, let's take a look. Well, and then OMI is the other one you covered real quick. And then we're going to jump over to the private chat. So in the general thing, I will put the link to the video. I've got to go create it in a second. But OMI just keeps getting cheaper. CoinGecko, I think, has it a little bit better. OMI. And here we go. Whoa, it just keeps getting cheaper. This is terrible, unless you like buying low like I do. And I like buying low. There's no sign that it's ultimately turned around yet, and that's okay. I buy based on the fundamentals of the company, that I believe that they will survive the bear market and make it to where everyone is flooding the zone with crypto money and throwing money at everything that survived and has a good narrative. And I think they have a good narrative and a good chance to survive. And that's the exit point I'm waiting for. And this is in the load up zone at these really cheap prices. All right, everyone. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us. We're going to wrap up. Paul, I will send you a link to the new StreamYard. And for those in the Discord, I'll send you a link to the private video you can only get access to with the link. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you in a minute, Paul.
Thanks for your questions. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.